So my name is Dexter Tagwireyi. I'm a pharmacist and toxicologist and an academician based at the University of Zimbabwe in the Department of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences. So I was part of the inaugural cohort. What was that? 2015, 2016. And I'm excited to be here. Growing up in academia, you could tell that there was a gap, so to speak, in issues of leadership within the sphere of science and research, with extremely interesting leadership styles from those who were ahead of us. So coming into the workshop, what I expected then was to sit down and, to quote my words, and be blasted by getting facts, information. Leadership should be like this, leadership should be like that. But the type of experience that I had there was something totally different. It was the first time I'd been to such a meeting or such a workshop where it would appear that the nature of the meeting and the way it progresses has got more to do with your actual input. So it's not really the facilitators telling you issues or facts about what leadership should be, but you're actually part of the process of actually defining what leadership ought to be and how leadership ought to be conducted. I think one of the things that stand out for me was the fact that problems could actually be viewed as potential solutions by turning a problem into a question, so to speak, or into a challenge. Instead of crying about how we don't have this or we don't have that, we were taught some exciting phrases. The one that sticks to my mind is, how might we? And then you'd turn your problem into a potential solution. The other thing that stands out is the first day where we did forgotten what the name is, but where you do a drawing in a bag. And I found that quite fascinating and interesting. It really relaxed everybody who was involved. So it was really an amazing experience for me, which 10 years down the line, I still think about and I still cherish, because it has actually helped to mold me and has molded me to be the person that I am today, even concerning my approach to dealing with issues and problems that I come across. Life-changing, that's one. A compound word I would use. Different is another word that actually pops up immediately. Practical, I think, is another word that actually comes to the front of my mind. And fun, believe it or not, quite a lot of fun. I think those are the words that I would actually use to describe my experience with the African Science Leadership Program. And maybe one more word is enriching. And by enriching, it was enriching from the perspective of maybe, acquiring a different way of thinking, from the traditional leadership that we think about, where, well, at least that I grew up under, where it's always top down, you have to do this, you have to do this. But, when I went through the program, I learned something totally different, which really enriched me. But apart from that, the interactions and the networks which we made, or which were forged or formed during that time, have really significantly enriched my own life, personally, as an individual, but also from a professional perspective. Just last month in August, we were in Mauritius, where my daughter was graduating. And the interesting story now is that one of the fellows who was in this program, the ASLP Fiduci, when my daughter first went to Mauritius, she lost her bags at the airport. And Fiduci was the one who actually made sure that they drove all the way to the airport, and the airport was really far. And she just made things work for my daughter. And I was chatting to her today and saying, you know what, thank you so much for having done that. So for me, that was quite enriching. And the enrichment went beyond just the, research space or the science space, but it went into my own social sphere and my social life. Also, perhaps just to quickly mention, a few years back, after I'd gone through the program, I went to Ethiopia for it was a symposium of sorts. And during that time, I managed to bump into Mariama Witt, who was also a part of that same cohort, which was pretty cool. And actually, from that interaction, we ended up having some of the postgrad students coming over here to Zimbabwe, to my lab, to come and do some work. So it was, I could go on. We had some students who required their PhD thesis to be marked, and Abidemi from Nigeria was the one who eventually became the examiner. So very enriching, I should say. I think it was during the first workshop when we had to take the picture, the group photo. So ordinarily, for photographs, you'd be like, smile, say cheese, cheese. And we had one like that. And then, I don't remember the exact words which were used, but we had to do a crazy picture. And then after 1, 2, 3, go, everybody had to jump into a funny, crazy stance. I distinctly remember my stance. I was something like this with my legs sticking out. Whew, that was nice. It was nice, it was nice. And then the other thing, and this I still have the painting. There's one of the evening activities where we had to draw some little paintings, and and then so you first you'd have a painting, and then you pass it to somebody else. They add in whatever, they pass it to somebody else, and really the whole idea was that you could actually build from other people's ideas. But I liked the final one where we just given some canvas and we to come up with our own paintings, and I still have mine. It's called Sparkle or something like that. So I found that quite memorable. And then just the environment and the people. And like I said, the facilitation for me was something totally different. I wasn't used to that. I was used to sitting and being told what to do. But in this workshop, you had to be a part of it in order for you to benefit as much as possible from actually what was going on. So yeah, those were the memorable moments. And then there was this video which was done at the end of it, which had a song like helele, helele, yeah. I liked it. I just liked it. Every time I watched it, and I'd get tears. So from that time, 2015, 2016, I think, like I said, one of the valuable lessons that I got from a leadership perspective was that leadership is not necessarily always top down, but you need to listen to other people, hear out what they're saying. And from that time, I then became the director of the School of Pharmacy, and that's basically what I was utilizing in terms of my leadership style. Even in terms of when problems come, or there are some challenges, I would try to then get the staff to coin their challenges in a manner that shows that the actual solutions, without necessarily saying, oh, so what are we going to do about it? You say, okay, how might we get more funds to get this equipment? How might we? And that has really influenced my leadership style in the way that I do my things. So, after that, I was appointed to a few boards, national boards. And basically, that's my leadership style, that they're always solutions. They are always solutions. It's a matter of trying to explore, thinking outside the box. What can we do about it? And the issue of collaboration, I think I've already probably just touched on a bit when I mentioned, the collaboration that we had with my Ethiopian buddy, Mariamowit. But I've also had the opportunity then to be involved in other collaborative teams with colleagues from the region and elsewhere. And like I said, the way that I approach these things is participatory. How might we get things to move together, and collaborative? Because to me, that was one of the most important things that came out of this workshop. You're not an island, and complex problems cannot be solved by one person. Complex problems, they need a number of people to be involved. Me, I am an African science leader. Me. Yeah. If I'm not one, then it means the program went to waste. An African science leader was formed in me. So you're talking to an African science leader, a person who is supposed to think way beyond themselves, a person who looks at challenges not as impossibilities, but looks at challenges as potential opportunities, doors that can be opened. If they cannot be opened, that can be crashed through. If they cannot be crashed through, that can be removed. If they cannot be removed, that can be ignored one way or the other in order to get solutions to issues which have to do with science and research in Africa. A science leader, in my opinion, is one who is thinking consistently, how can I make this African space a better place? If not necessarily for my generation, but when I leave this place, I must have left at least the generation to come with a starting place, where they can step on and progress, push forward in terms of solutions. An African leader is not a dictator, but is one who understands that he is not the epitome of wisdom and knowledge, or the owner of all knowledge. Knowledge has been distributed to different people. And for solutions to come, we need more than one person to be able to push for solutions to come our way. Only God is omniscient. African leader understands that. We hear other people's opinions. We bring them in, we weigh them out. An African leader must be one who, when he looks at all the so-called problems that Africa has, in his mind, and I'm probably repeating this, that's because that's what probably has been implanted in me, in his mind, when he sees the problems that Africa has, he does not switch off or throw his hands up and say there's no solution, but knows there's a solution. There's no problem which does not have a solution. It's a matter of time. Maybe we've not taken enough time to think about the potential solutions. In the science leadership program, one of the things that we were taught, or that we learned, is the issue of thinking outside the box, number one. Number two, the other thing that we learned is the fact that the first idea that comes into your mind is not necessarily the best idea, and not necessarily the most creative one. The other thing that we're taught related to the second thing is that we should think, allow your brain to wander. So that's another thing, perhaps, which I didn't say earlier, which made an impact to me. The issue of delaying judgment, your divergent thinking, and then convergent thinking. Because that's one thing which, in an academic sphere, because as academics, we're trained to analyze and critique things. So the moment somebody says something, your academic mind starts, okay, so what's wrong with it? No, that doesn't make sense because that theory is not really supported. But then an African leader shouldn't think like that. An African leader allows people with their ideas to bring them and listens and says, okay, let's write that down. And when all the ideas are there, the African leader says, okay, what should we do now? Let's look at our ideas. Let's narrow on them. Let's put them into different groups. Let's see which ones are actually practical. So that's what an African science leader is. Me. I'll say it in Shona first. Zvinoita chete. That means, translated loosely, it means it shall work. In other words, there is nothing which is impossible. Nothing. So that's the message that I have, We might have all these so-called problems, but there are solutions to them. And we should not be looking around to see where the next solution is coming from. We should be the solutions to the problems that we actually have at the moment. Me and you. Is that fine? Okay. So you can't really do one word, but those are the words, like explosive, mind-blowing, and transformative. So, okay, let's be normal people. Transformative. How does that sound?